university governance and driving diversity, equity, and inclusion. So at CIPU, we firmly believe that universities are not only places of academic excellence, but also powerful agents of change in society. So as we navigate a rapidly evolving world, so the need for diverse, inclusive, and equitable environments within our higher education institutions has never been more pressing. The governance structures at our universities play a pivotal role in shaping and nurturing these values. And today, we are here to explore how these frameworks can be enhanced to ensure that all students and faculty, regardless of background, have equal opportunities to thrive. So our distinguished panel of speakers brings invaluable perspectives, and we look forward to a lively and insightful discussion. I encourage each of you to engage with the ideas shared today as we collectively work towards creating a more inclusive educational ecosystem for the leaders of tomorrow. A brief introduction about the panelists before we begin. Professor Mrs. Rajita Kulkarni, President of Santishree University. She will be the moderator and the session chair for today. Professor Rajita Kulkarni is the President of Santishree University, a globally recognized leader in education, entrepreneurship, and thought leadership. With 2 decades of experience in banking, she has played a pivotal role in transforming Santishree University from a barren land of 2 trees into an award-winning institution, the top 200 green campus worldwide. Under her visionary leadership, the university now offers 60 undergraduate and postgraduate programs, has more than 3,500 students, and operates 25 centers of excellence. And Professor Kulkarni is a TEDx speaker, best-selling author of The Unknown Edge, the LinkedIn top voice in education, known for her unique integration of human values in education. She's also an influential advocate for ethical business practices, having served as the president of the World Forum for Ethics in Business and led numerous initiatives for women's leadership and gender equity. Professor Kulkarni plays a senior leadership role on national educational platforms, such as co-chairperson of the ASSOCHAM India Education Council, a national council member of the CII Education Council. She is an elected member of the Council of Indian Institute of Science, and she has been recognized for her contributions to education and leadership with several accolades, including Lakshi Award, Women of Excellence in Education Award, and recognition as one of the top 30 change makers in education by Fortune magazine. And she has spoken at many prestigious global forums such as the United Nations, G20, European Parliament, FIFA, and the World Bank, reaching an audience of over 3.5 million people. Additionally, she has mentored over 1 lakh leaders across 50 plus countries. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for being here, Professor Kulkarni. Thank you. First panelist for today is Professor Dr. Santishree Dhulipudi Pandit, Vice Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She was appointed as the first woman and alumnus Vice Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University. She joined in February 2022 for a period of 5 years, teaching and research career spanning over 3.5 decades, beginning with lecturer at the Goa University from 1988 and till 1991. In 1991, she joined the University of Pune, previously as a professor in the Department of Politics and Public Administration, holding the additional charge of Director International Center since 2001 to 2007. She published 4 books and edited 2, and she has published several research papers, and she has widely traveled, completed several projects, both major and minor. 30 students have completed their PhD under her supervision and 8 MPhils. And in several universities, she's on the boards of studies, an expert in many areas of teaching and research, including international relations, Asian studies, culture and foreign policy, conflict, violence, and gender. And she has been a member of several national academic and research bodies from 2015 and continue until now. And she has published several research papers and books. Warm welcome to Professor Santishree. The next panelist is Professor Dr. M.L. Gaur, Vice Chancellor of Dr. C.V. Raman University, Vaishali, Bihar. Dr. Gaur is a renowned academician, researcher, and institutional leader with over 41 years of expertise across research and development, education, policy planning, leadership, and institutional transformation. Currently serving as the Vice Chancellor of Dr. C.V. Raman University, Bihar. He's at the forefront of advancing multidisciplinary education, research excellence, and international collaborations. With a senior agricultural engineering background and a PhD in hydrology from IIT Roorkee, Dr. Gaur has made significant contributions to water management, climate resilient agriculture, watershed hydrology, and agroforestry. His career includes leading over 25 national scale R&D projects at ICAR, focusing on watershed hydrology, soil conservation, and innovative agroforestry techniques in challenging landscapes across India. As the founding principal and dean of CAET at Anand Agricultural University, he played a pivotal role in establishing a nationally accredited institution. Dr. Gaur's tenure as senior professor and ADR in the Directorate of Research at AAU Anand further solidified his influence in faculty development, R&D, and academic administration. A prolific scholar with over 100 research publications, he has mentored numerous MTech and PhD scholars and designed over 25 UG and PG courses. And Dr. Gaur's expertise has shaped national policies, particularly through his contributions to the NEP 2020, where his recommendations on integrating primary and higher agricultural education have been endorsed at the highest levels of governance, and he has also played a key role in the development of new ICAR institutes in Jabalpur, Solapur, and Gwalior. Thank you so much, Dr. Gaur, for joining us today. The next panelist for today is Professor Dr. Y.S.R. Murthy, Vice Chancellor, the Assam Royal Global University, Guwahati. Professor Dr. Y.S.R. Murthy assumed charge as the Vice Chancellor of Assam Royal Global University in September 2024, and as civil servant turned educator, he has 4 decades of rich and varied experience in the RV University, Bangalore, O.P. Jindal Global University, Sonipat, National Human Rights Commission, Ministry of Finance, Information and Broadcasting, Prime Minister's Office, President's Secretariat, and Cabinet Secretariat. He is a passionate institution builder, educator, and is deeply interested in human rights related issues. He holds a bachelor's and master's degree in statistics from the University of Madras, MA degree in human rights from the University of London, and PhD from Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University. He secured university first rank in MSc and also prestigious British Chevening Fellowship. Dr. Murthy is the national coordinator of SWAYAM, besides being a member of the Association of British Scholars. He is the recipient of Chanakya National Award 2023 for Excellence in Education, instituted by the Public Relations Council of India, the Bangalore Management Association Education Excellence Award 2023, and several other awards. Thank you so much, Dr. Murthy, for joining us. A warm welcome to you. And final speaker, panelist for the day is the Professor Dr. Parvinder Singh, who is the Vice Chancellor of Lamrin Tech Skills University, Punjab. Professor Parvinder Singh was the former Vice Chancellor of Rayat Bahara University, Mohali, and former Controller of Examinations of Punjab University, Chandigarh. He has a ubiquitous experience of 34 years in the education sector, including a glorious 26 years of teaching experience. Professor Dr. Parvinder Singh is also a convener of many international and national conferences, seminars, and workshops for faculty members, principals, and students on education and exam reforms. And furthermore, he has published research papers in international and national journals on chemistry, authored books on chemistry at undergraduate levels for various Indian universities. In addition, he has presented and published many articles on chemical education. So on behalf of CIPU, I would like to welcome all the distinguished panelists for today's session. For the next 1 hour, participants will be listening to the discussion, and followed by that, we can have a few questions if time permits, and you can post your questions in the chat box or raise your hands during the Q&A session to unmute yourself for the question. Thank you so much, and over to Professor Rajita Kulkarni.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Karthik, for a very beautiful and comprehensive introduction of the really erudite and scholarly panel that we have today to discuss the role of university governance in driving diversity, equity, and inclusion. Last month, Dr. Karthik nominated me as the national chair for the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Confederation of Indian Private Universities. And considering that last week we celebrated the International Women's Day, it was my request to Dr. Karthik that let us begin our effort on the discussion on DEI with a roundtable like this. And I would like to thank you, Dr. Karthik, for your very prompt and very wonderful curation of this afternoon's panel. Just a few introductory thoughts before opening the discussion and hearing the insights from our panelists. In recent years, there has been a growing recognition that DEI is not just a checkbox on institutional policies, but it is an essential pillar for institutional excellence, and in our case, academic excellence, and also for societal impact and transformation. And in our case, the university governance, therefore plays a very crucial role in embedding DEI principles into strategic decision-making, ensuring that our campuses are inclusive spaces where every student, faculty member, staff member feels included, valued, and empowered to carry on their roles. if you look at the Indian landscape, we are the world's second largest higher education system, close to 1,400 universities, almost 50,000 colleges, serving close to 50 million students. And we are an inherently diverse country, a diverse landscape spanning central, state, private, deemed universities, catering to students from multiple socioeconomic backgrounds, regions, religions, and culture. The Government of India, through initiatives like the National Education Policy 2020, has underscored and emphasized the importance of DEI by focusing on gender parity, accessibility, and inclusion of marginalized communities. Even at the global level, universities are increasingly prioritizing DEI. According to one of the recent UNESCO Global Education Monitoring report, nearly 40% of higher education institutions worldwide have dedicated DEI policies. Of course, there is a lot more that needs to be done. For example, we all know in STEM fields, only about 25 to 30% of the global workforce is, for example, one aspect of diversity, which is gender, which is women, and many such more examples. And especially as we grow up the tier, how the participation of different diversity stakeholders start reducing. There is benefit and infinite wisdom in focusing on DEI. One of the QS World University rankings has indicated that institutions with strong DEI commitments tend to have better student outcomes, employability rates, and also better collaborations nationally and internationally. Why are we having this discussion? With our Honorable Prime Minister's vision for making India a global economic and knowledge powerhouse by 2047, one of the top 3 world economies, education will be a bedrock of this transformation. The Amrit Kal Vision 2047 aims to position India as the top 3 economies with a robust human capital foundation. And for this, diversity, equity, and inclusion is going to be crucial. There are a number of Government of India policy interventions, whether it is 50% GER with strong emphasis on marginalized groups, or the recent gender advancement for transforming institutions, Gati policy for advancing women in STEM fields, and many more such policy interventions. And today we are together to hear from our 4 esteemed panelists on what we can do in our university ecosystems and with the governance mechanisms we have to practically move ahead the needle on DEI in the higher education landscape of India. And I would like to thank all the panelists. We've had some good pre-panel discussions, which have allowed us to curate a set of ideas, which will ensure that we get different inputs from each of the panelists and enrich this conversation. But before we jump into that, I would like each of the 4 panelists to maybe give a 2-minute opening remark on why you think DEI is impactful and necessary, and why has it gained momentum in the recent years across industries, but specifically in the higher education landscape. And I would like to start by inviting Dr. Santishree Pandit to kick off this discussion by sharing your inputs, Dr. Pandit.
Thank you, Professor Rajita Kulkarni, and thank you, Professor Karthik. Thank you so much. I think let me congratulate the CPIU for taking up the issue of DEI. It is very essential, especially Jawaharlal Nehru University got the QS rankings, the first place for DEI. We have it very much in our policy. We also have deprivation points. JNU stands for diversity, difference, inclusion is very much a part of it. We have deprivation points as well as reservation policies and gender. Let me tell you, we have more women students than male students. Yeah, as a woman vice chancellor, I think I'm the first. So that also is also a statement by the present government, who is walking the talk on gender equality. So, and so I would say that Jawaharlal Nehru University is a trailblazer when it comes to DEI. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Pandit. And yes, as you rightly said, you are the first woman Vice Chancellor of JNU in so many decades, and very inspiring, I think, for a generation of women aspiring leaders. And as you rightly said, the focus on it is important. In fact, UN SDG 5 on gender equity, UN SDG 10 on reduced inequalities continues to drive our attention to this area. From you, I would like to move to you, Dr. Murthy, for your initial opening remarks.
Universities, do not operate in isolation, but in a social milieu. It's very important to understand it and contextualize it. We are living in a globalized world, and DA policies seek to correct a historic wrong, be it gender discrimination or caste discrimination or discrimination based on gender identity or sexual orientation or other grounds. In the backdrop of backlash against DEI in a first world country, there's all the more reason for other countries to uphold it. A diverse student body or even a diverse faculty body has a unique opportunity to learn from the experiences of others. Persons from vulnerable sections must access higher education for social, economic mobility. It is also imperative from the standpoint of adherence to the Indian Constitution or realizing its goals and values. Unless universities focus on DEI, they can end up as local or regional institutions. They cannot become a Vishwaguru, let alone becoming a pan-Indian institution. NEP's goal of doubling GER up to 50% by 2035 will be meaningful if and only if diversity, equity, and inclusion concerns are fully addressed. It also ties up with the Sustainable Development Goals, which stress the need to leave no one behind with the 2030 deadline.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy. Very well articulated, leave no one behind. And I think that is the in spirit underlying principle of DEI. And as you rightly said, we are in an environment where there is so much backlash on DEI, especially in some of our Western country friends, that even more important, I just read an article which says replace DEI with MEI, merit, excellence, and inspiration. So yes, that is definitely not at the cost of merit, but leaving no one behind being the spirit. From that, I want to move to Dr. Singh for your initial remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Kulkarni. Thanks to the organizer, to Karthik and the CIPU governing body for giving a very thoughtful idea to discuss. I think all these three, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DI, what we call, they should be the value-based education. So we are more toward the traditional education, but I think they are the fundamental principles. They contribute for the progress and sustainability of the society. That's very important to me. And these concepts are required because we want fairness, we want respect, and we want equal opportunities for all the individuals, regardless of their background. So in this globalizing world, this is not only, I think, moral obligation, but it is a strategic advantage to the organization. So that means the impact on the different sphere of life, which we need to teach to our student, the challenges and the solution fostering these principles, that is very important. So that means equity should ensure the fairness by recognizing the talent of different individuals and what different needs they are having and what natural resources and the necessary resources we are providing them so that they succeed in their career. So we cannot say that equity and equality, they are the same, because equality is assumed that everyone should receive the same treatment. But equity knowledge disparities and seeks bridge gaps caused by the historical systematic disadvantage. So thereby, finally, what I say is the inclusion must be practice of creating the environment where all individuals, they have the value, they have the respect, they have empowerment to contribute significantly. So that means it goes beyond the representation to ensuring the diverse voices, they are heard, they are taken care, and they are participating in the decision-making process. This is what it is about the DEI.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. So equity over equality, a very important point there. And then Dr. Gaur finally for initial remarks, and then I'll go to the second round. Yes.
Thank you, madam. It's a privilege for me. Greetings to all the participants and Confederation of the Indian Private Universities. This particular discussion we are going to have on a special instance nearing Women's Day. And I'm happy to share that 3 days before, I was in Kolkata and sitting with Kolkata actress Indrani Haldar. She was with me. And also the Jagadguru Shankaracharya ji. Both sides were there. I talked to both of them. I got a word there. Sir, what do you think about the education of the tomorrows in the universities? They both speaks that it is the only woman who can convert the Indian higher education system to a great extent. Otherwise, there will be a lot of talking. So women were the centers from both of sides. So what I say, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you combine these three in a glass, it becomes woman, what I consider. The greatest level of diversity, the greatest level of equity, and greatest level of inclusion I have experienced in my life, it lies in the women-centered education. So when leadership is around these particular innovative lines are given, we will be able to harness the benefits of this discussion. Our universities are the architects of tomorrow. What happens? The true governance is not about to control. It is about creating opportunities where diverse voices can be listened. The question is that every voice, every idea, and every dream, all must be listened. We should not left anyone who says that this is a small dream, this is a small voice, this is a small idea. It happens. So every voice, every idea, and every dream concept will increase the diversity in university governance, because the world is full of rich in ideas. And nature speaks this. I tell you, nature speaks this because like a river, when a river flows, it carves its own path along the mountains and traditional landscapes. But in between, if we add some of the small streams, merging streams like AI, digital inputs, or some blended modern language, then only river can flow. This river is the symbol of the education that is going to be there. So we have to make the marry of the traditional wisdom that we are having, and then the latest streams must be added to that. And this will be the way to proceed towards this concept what we are discussing today. Then only we can get the true inclusion in our education system. And nature thrives on the balance. Rain is there, sunlight is there, earth is there, sky is there. Likewise, university's strength lies in blending the wisdom of our tradition with the technology. This is all I want to kick off in this study. Thank you very much.
Very nice, Dr. Gaur. Two big ideas. Every voice counts and balance. For Sri Sri University also, our founder, Puja Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji, has given us the defining vision of being the best with East and West, best confluence of East and West. And that is also a form of diversity and inclusive approach that discard nothing, accept everything. So very well said. I'm told Dr. Pandit has a bit of a time limit in terms of her presence. So I'm going to come to you, Dr. Pandit. You just shared that JNU is #1 in QS as far as DEI is concerned. So I have two questions for you. First is, what are you doing to reach this level, and what are some of the best practices you can share? And secondly, given JNU and its vibrant community of student ecosystem and all the stakeholders, how do you take everybody along to ensure this is a priority and not just a top-down policy that gets implemented?
Thank you, Professor Rajita Kulkarni. Thank you so much. If you see the 1966 bill in Parliament introduced for JNU, which is not with other central universities, the issue of, reaching to the poorest of the poor and the marginalized was one of the main aims. And the present Prime Minister, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So if you know, our fee structure is still 10 and 20 rupees. We have not raised the fees from 1969. We are totally supported by the Union Government of India and to corpus donations. I have brought in now the PPP model, that is a public-private, where I have got certain industrialists who build and transfer infrastructure to JNU. There's a new model we have brought, and another is state governments instituting corpuses for us. So this is the way we are doing. And let me tell you that We also have the internal complaints committee, which looks into any complaints that come on the issue of discrimination on any primordial identity, caste, creed, or gender. Even LGBT community has a complete freedom. I permit their pride parades. I'm the first vice chancellor to permit it in June. Only I tell them you can't force others. You can have your parade. We have from the extreme right to the extreme left here. And we have very good students. I've just announced the students' elections today again. For 5 years before I took over as Vice Chancellor, there were no student elections, were suspended. And our student elections are also unique. The students themselves elect their own body. In no way the administration is involved in running of the students' election. They have their own election commission. It is only overseen by the Interhall administration. Number two, if you see, we also have mentorships. We take 3-pointers and make them into 8-pointers. That is, we believe that there has to be a transformation. We don't accept the philosophy of taking 9.3 pointers and making them into 9.5 pointers. That is no transformation. We are not an elitist university. We take students from all over India. JNU has a policy that every state has to be represented, and we have different quotas for the different states. And also we give deprivation points for people who come from extremely marginalized, poor, rural backgrounds. We give them 10 to 12 marks more. No other university has this system. So this is something that helps us in bringing in a very inclusive atmosphere. And let me tell you another thing. I'm very proud to tell you, JNU never had a suicide on campus. That is because the students are empathetic. No student goes hungry. Do you know today that students can live within 2,000 rupees per month on only Jawaharlal Nehru University campus? And this is because of both very, I think, far-reaching policies of the Union Government of India, as well as private donations that come in, and our alumni network. You know that we have 3 ministers in the present cabinet: Nirmala Sitharaman, Dr. Jaishankar, and Amitabh Kant. And 30% of the IAS comes from the JNU. And so we are very proud of them, and even faculty. So, and ministers in the state of Bihar. We have 4 ministers in the state of Bihar who are ex-JNU students. So I think JNU students have mainly in equity, in DEI, we score very well. And we are also in the top 50 in at least 10 subjects, which in the QS rankings, we gave India the best rank, not IITs, not IIM. JNU gave the best rank, and the Prime Minister congratulated us this year for the 20th rank globally in MA in Development Studies. So I think even faculty come from very impoverished backgrounds. We practice affirmative policies and the reservation policies. So I think these are our best practices, and we see to it that no overt discrimination takes place among either students, or any type of personal identities are seldom used on campus, or any markers for that matter. And even our academic syllabus, let me tell you, is totally decentralized, madam. The Vice Chancellor doesn't interfere into any of the schools. We have 14 schools and 10 special centers. And we have the power to start any special center. We have started 3 special centers. One is for the Special Center for Tamil Studies. 10 crores was given by the state government of Tamil Nadu by the present Chief Minister, Muka Stalin, for the study of Tamil language, literature, and culture. And let me tell you, it's a very successful center. We are running a very good MA in Tamil studies and a certificate course in Tamil, where non-Tamils are learning Tamil. lot of Bihari boys are learning Tamil as part of the value added. So this is also inclusion. We have also the Srimant Shankar Deva Chair for Indic Studies given by the Assam government, and the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Chair for Marathi, and as well. So we are bringing in a lot of these state as funds for the corpus to bring in inclusion and implement NEP 2020, because the union government cannot be the only funding agency. We need to diversify, and that is what we are diversifying as of now. And so far, we have done quite well. And I agree with you, we have still to better ourselves. But I think when it comes to DEI, we have been performing extraordinarily, because we are a mini India in JN. You can find people from every state of India as a student in Jawaharlal Nehru University. And we have hostels also given to us by different states, like the Northeast Council has given us the Barak Hostel. Our hostels are named by different rivers of India. So that also brings in the inclusion idea and the cultural idea. So I would rather say that as a public university, we are very different from other public universities. Lastly, I would like to add, madam, that JNU can affiliate all over the country. Many people don't know we have 150 affiliated institutions, National Defense Academy, all naval academies, all Air Force, every Army, Naval and Air Force officer is a JNU graduate. And top DRDO institutes, Ayuka Pune is under JNU, CME Pune is under JNU. We also have now travel tourism and hotel management institutes come under JNU, because JNU is the only university that can affiliate all over the country. And we have a brand. So people who want to go abroad for a job want to have the JNU. So we give them the certificates and see to their academic programs, which are diverse, inclusive, as well as the DEI is implemented there. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pandit. That was a very, very comprehensive and exhaustive sort of lens you gave us into what is happening on the JNU campuses. And I know you have shared this on many occasions, that ever since you have taken over, there hasn't been a single protest on the campus, which unfortunately the campus was infamous for. So hearty congratulations to you for bringing out so many positive and so many proactive and very, very impactful interventions. I have also personally followed your social media posts, and you have been really traversing the length and breadth of the country, bringing in this additional corpuses to start these centers of excellence. And what I took out from you, of course, so many ideas, but just a simple thing like naming buildings with names of rivers from across the country, how that can bring in, you know, the diversity angle. I mean, there are small little gestures in day-to-day living that can, because sometimes people think of DEI as some monumental needle to push, but it need not be that. It could be tiny actions on a day-to-day basis that create this culture of equity and inclusion. So thank you, Dr. Pandit, for that very exhaustive comments from your side. From there, I'm going to move to you, Dr. Murthy, to Guwahati. You know, in a private university setup, some of the challenges and the priorities we face are some totally different. So what would your insight be on how can, you know, at a university level, we implement DEI policies and make it, two questions to you, make it inclusive, make them inclusive, make them everybody's agenda, not just the top leadership agenda, and make them long lasting and sustainable, not a, you know, sort of a fad of the month or fad of the year.
Thank you. Since you referred to Guwahati, yes, I want to refer to the unique situation of Northeast. There is a net outflow of students from the region to centers like Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, and if you look at the what you call number of students from other parts of the country to the Northeast is negligible. So the in fact, all the institution would like to have a geographical diversity, but this flaw is on account of lack of industrialization in the Northeast, and there are a lack of other placement opportunities, unlike other metropolitan cities. Of course, the government has implemented the Act East policy, but it might take about a decade or so before the full benefits of the what you call the policy will bear fruit, and then hopefully then we can have a full geographical diversity, and there will be a exodus of students from the region to other parts will be reduced. Since you asked about challenges, I would like to highlight a few challenges. For instance, there is a lack of awareness and also entrenched attitudes about gender, religious minorities, LGBTQI+, homophobia, transphobia are some challenges. For long, we have lived in a world of gender binaries. In fact, there is in across different campuses, there's a lack of awareness about gender identity and the rights of transgender persons. Recently, in one institution, a gender audit was conducted, and I don't want to name that institution. 64% of the students said that they did not know the difference between gender and sexuality. And while 50% of the faculty and staff also expressed similar ignorance about the difference between gender and sexuality. So let us be conscious of the needs of trans people who are trying to adapt to the gender identity of their choice. Will they stay in a men's hostel or women's hostel or a unisex hostel? Do our institutions have washrooms for third gender? How will you deal with a mixed academic community comprising some with ultra conservative mindset and some with ultra modern or a Western mindset? These are some of the challenges.
And Dr. Murthy, I'm going to come back to you to ask you, so what can we do to make our DEI policies inclusive and long-term sustainable?
There is a lot that we need to do. For instance, right from our admission stage upwards, including reservations for socially, economically disadvantaged students, and also scholarship opportunities. For instance, Assam Royal Global University has instituted scholarships for the most marginalized tribes from like Chekmas, Bruce, from each of these northeastern states, which include even 100% scholarships. And in order to make an institution a truly inclusive one, we need to reorient the policies. For example, faculty hiring policies, HR policies, and also the anti-discrimination policies, promote a truly inclusive environment, and see that there is no discrimination whatsoever is practiced. The way we constitute our governance structures, be it the Board of Governors, Board of Management, Academic Council, be it Internal Complaints Committee, Internal Quality Assurance Committee, all other important committees, there shall be a true representation, particularly from gender point of view, from caste, religious minorities, or even persons with disabilities, and SCs, STs, and also trans people. Only when you hear them, only when you take on board their concerns, can a truly inclusive, truly what you call a modern a campus can be created.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy. So a lot of focus on making sure that at every level, every policy across the board is accounting for different aspects of DEI. I mean, gender is one, regionality is one, culture, religion, caste. There are so many aspects to it. So thanks for those inputs, Dr. Murthy. Dr. Singh, I want to come to you to hear from you some examples of how you are integrating DEI within your university.
I joined this Lamrin Tech Skills University. This is one of the unique university in India. where we are focusing on the pan-India enrollment of the student for skilled courses. And I think this is the one university which is by the industry, for the industry, with the industry. Directly with the skill development center of center as well as state. Our Chancellor, Dr. Sandeep Singh Koda, is very visionary, and we are very much concerned about the DI. What we are incorporating is the first is the education and awareness for the DI. Let's have the conducting the training on the unconscious bias, as my other counterpart colleagues have mentioned, the culture competency that can be in the curriculum, inclusive practices that recognizes the individuals and challenges the discriminatory behaviors. That is one our university is focused. And then we are focused on the equitable policy and the practice, the hiring, promotion, and compensation policies that addresses the disparity. I think that can be very useful for the university. And what impact it will have in the society, DIA will create the inclusive learning environment that will empower the student from the different backgrounds. The representation in curricula, equitable access, and inclusive policies, student will have fair chance to succeed in their career. So that means the diverse educational background will also prepare students to thrive in the multicultural world by exposing them to the different perspective experiences. So here may be some social and cultural benefits, but at the same time, I think diversity fosters a very richer culture understanding. When the people from different backgrounds will interact, they will develop the empathy and appreciation for the different perspective. I am very impressed by the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Jawaharlal Nehru University. This is something very amazing to note that so many things are happening under the name of Jawaharlal Nehru University. I think that's a sensitization to all of us. And the private university through CIPU and other platform, they must have some collaboration with these universities, particularly in the upcoming field of the DI and the value-based education. So with the result of that, I think economic and the workplace advantage will certainly change the creativity, innovation, and productivity. That's what my university is focused, and we are on the job about this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. So from Dr. Murthy's point, there was a lot of focus on policy. What you spoke, I hear a lot on training. You spoke about, really helping people understand unconscious bias. I think it's a big thing today. We don't realize the biases are there, and we need to be made aware of that. So I'll come back to you for an industry angle in the next round. With that, Dr. Gaur, I want to ask you, how would you see the role of the community in ensuring that we as university campuses have a DEI focus, and how are you doing this in your campus?
Yeah, it's a very, very genuine and very good question. I respect this question because our university, Dr. C.B. Raman University, fortunately lying at a place which is Vaishali. And Vaishali is the place where the Lord Mahavira and Lord Buddha born here. And we are closer to Nalanda. And Prime Minister is working to revive the Nalanda knowledge. So we are at the roots of the wisdom. Within 100 kilometers, we have Nalanda University. Last week, I also have been there. So connecting the roots with the traditional technology and modern technology is focus of our university. And fortunately, Santosh he's a person who loves the art, science, Hindi, and he is a Vishwa Hindu, Hindi, and Mauritius, he has completed just the Vishwa Hindi Sammelan. So how to connect the society, science and arts with the high language, with the high education, that is our aim here. We are sending our students to villages for full day, let them discuss with the farmers, villages, and let have a metric that they are facing. Real say I'm giving it to one. The ladies are having they were taking by the fingers. What a painful situation. Then we allocated the project for the students, developed maize seed extracts. So like that, our students are getting involved with the
Dr. Gaur? Dr. Karthik, is it his connection?
Yeah,
Maybe?
yes, yes. I think
Same
this is
distance.
connection.
Where nature and
Dr. Gaur, unfortunately, we are not able to hear you completely.
like this. Huh?
Dr. Gaur, we were not able to hear you
Am
completely
I
the last minute or so.
Maybe you can disconnect and connect again. So meanwhile, I think we can continue with the other points.
Yeah, if you can maybe connect with Dr. Gaur, and I think he's doing that.
Yeah.
I also want to share here that being under the umbrella of Art of Living, and Art of Living being our parent in that sense, I think we also have a DNA of diversity of another kind. Art of Living is now in 180 countries of the world. So multicultural diversity and acceptance, multi-generational diversity and acceptance, multi-country, of course, gender is an important part. I think that exposure, we can see how that is kind of expanding the students' minds, and our whole belief in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world as one family. I think that as an underlying principle, we are seeing how that is creating a culture in a sense of respect for diversity, active acceptance, so that it can be used as a foundation and a base for excellence. So, that's a bit of an input from my side. Dr. Gaur, you are back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, it was some failure here. Yeah.
Yeah, last minute we couldn't hear. If you could repeat that.
Yeah. I was saying that unless our students go to the grassroots, or unless the grassroots must be explored, the inclusion or diversity or whatever we are calling, it's not possible. We have to connect with the spiritual knowledge, traditional knowledge, and our society, because the ultimate goal of any student, any university, is to facilitate the comfort zone of society. And I see there are many self-driving sectors. I'm giving example, just an example. See, who will talk about the animals? India is the country which is having highest number of animals in the world, 75 crores. And we are the highest milk producers. But this sector is a self-driving sector. We are producing 20 lakhs crores economy for the country, 5.1% of the national GDP. Are we not including that? This is true agriculture. If you minus animals from the agriculture, nothing is there. So such kind of innovative inclusions in the education system must be there, where the prosperity and livelihood of rural domain can be made better by the universities, because universities are confined towards urban domain only. So let us move towards rural domain, towards less privileged society, towards women, towards girls. Let them get the benefit of our educational system. That is what NEP says. So this is my input, madam.
Thank you, Dr. Gaur. I want to ask a common question to all three panelists, starting with you, Dr. Murthy. Do you think we are doing enough for DEI in India? And what would you say could be one or two key metrics that we could track to measure DEI success?
Are we doing enough? The simple answer is there's a need to do a lot more. Currently, the very fact that if you look at the representation of women in parliament or executive or in the judiciary, the percentages are then not 50%. They are
and
just
even on this panel.
hold the half the sky. But so the universities are also a microcosm of the society in which we live, and there are what you call, often we hear about caste discrimination, some pockets of the country. So we still hear about suicides in some campuses, and also mental health issues, particularly faced by persons belonging to some vulnerable sections. So there is there's a lot more that we need to do, and we need to involve the teachers. We need to sensitize them through better training, and then there is a need for strict enforcement of all existing laws. And also there is a need to mobilize the media, the need to involve the community. Then first of all, for example, there's a transgender rights act is there. how many of us are aware about the provisions and how about the rights of the transgenders? And there is a Supreme Court judgment as well. So, in fact, their rights can't be just secured by modifying our admission forms and provide for like third gender. But we need to go far more than this. And we need to say that they don't receive any hostility or they be it inside the educational setting or be it outside. We need to conduct diversity audits. We need to conduct access audits for persons with disabilities. Access audits do not stop with ramps or disabled-friendly toilets, but also availability of braille materials or even sign language interpreters, or even reasonable accommodation for persons having mental health issues. So there is a whole lot there is a need that needs to be done. And similarly, if you look at persons belonging to SCs, STs, or economically vulnerable sections, or even rural, there's more that needs to be done. For instance, we notice one major challenge. There are students who study in their mother tongue till 11th standard and join the university, and they struggle because what happened, they're not, so there is a need to have some kind of bilingual education or make available materials in the language of their choice, so that they give them some kind of bridge course when they join, so that they come to level with the rest of the community. And unfortunately, not much attention is being paid across the India. When I talk about my own institution, we are very, we have about 8,000 students, and we have about 50% of our students are female students. And even among faculty, we have about 67% of faculty members are women. And they not only get appointment as assistant, associate professor, they also hold leadership positions as assistant deans, coordinators, deans, and HODs, etc. So it's very important to measure these through metrics such as geographical diversity, gender diversity, caste diversity, and also through other means. And then even our own policies also should be inclusive.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy. That was such an exhaustive insight into what we can do to really measure and track. And really great to know 67% of your faculty members are women. Even in Shishu University, we quite actively track the gender diversity part. For sure, we have about 50% of our faculty members as women, about 51% of team students as girls students, female students. And my personal metric is to track women students in STEM programs and encourage that and make sure that that stays at a good 50% mark. So good to hear
Just
from
add on one more metric.
Yeah.
The support extended to the economically weaker sections can also be through kind of scholarships, so that there is enough diversity, and then those who are meritorious are not really deprived of access to higher educational opportunities. That can be one important metric as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Dr. Singh, I want to come to you. In your earlier remarks, you said you are you mentioned about your very strong industry collaboration and industry integrated programs and research. How do you think that is helping you to push the agenda of DEI? Would you like to share something on that? And what metrics in your mind are important to ensure we can track DEI success?
As I earlier said about the university preamble, we are not only the industry-driven university, but it is industry in itself. As I said, it is by the industry, for the industry, with the industry. All big industries of this region or pan-India, they are the industry anchor of this university. They are the mentor, and that means DI is having much importance to us, but there are some challenges which I think we should not overlook. So there are advantages to implement the DI initiative, but there is a resistance to change. As earlier by colleagues they said, there's unconsciousness bias or the system barrier, they may come as a hurdle, whereas the DI policy is let's say it's a statutory policy, and superficially without genuine commitment, so there should not be any tokenism. Rather, there is a meaningful change must take place. And knee-jerk change can bring a big impact in the society. Additionally, we have to see what is the historical injustice and how much time we have already spent on that, and what further continuous effort is required. That means we may find to restrain from these type of biasism or disparities. So understanding to the level of the student, that means presence of the setting up in inclusive race, gender, age, orientation. So there should not be any kind of barrier, but rather we should acknowledge the people and the student who are coming from far off places for the technical courses, for the skill courses. So they comprise of all the states. As on today, we are having we are catering 21 states. That means the experience and perspective of the leadership is very insightful, and that is only possible when you are having the determination that DI is part and parcel of your curriculum. So industry is your partner, industry is your driving force, but at the same time, so pan India, I think these DI can be a very important to the university management.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. And the same question, Dr. Gaur, to you. What would you consider as ways to really measure the success of DEI?
Yeah.
And what would your advice be to other university leaders who are wanting to make a success of their DEI imprint?
I will divide my statement in two parts. First is how, and second is what strategies. Let us go to how. Let us have 3-4 points. Universities must involve DI in its core governance, not just its initiative. It should be a core governance, fundamental value for the university. Number 2, there must be a structural transformation. There must be a transparent policies on hiring, admissions, promotions, and diverse leadership. Extremely transparent policy. Number 2. Number 3 is the cultural change must be there. It should be the most matrix point here, where DI must be reflected in the curriculum, where the teaching practice must be inclusive, and there must be a bias-free campus environment. The environment of the campus must be bias-free. And lastly, accountability must be very clear. DEI performance metrics must consider independent audits and a clear consequence for non-compliance. If you don't do this, this will happen. It is not there. We are lacking this. So these are the points. Then students and faculty engagements must be, it should not be consultation. It should be active participation, both student active. So these are the how we can do our metrics in a better way. Now, what strategies we should apply? Number 1, as I told you, merit with inclusion. You have to invite the merit from outside the sphere of the university, make an inclusive merit. When there is an inclusive merit, there is an inclusive education. Number 2, there must be a pipeline programs. You build mentorships. Let us have mentors cutting across the state universities, and that there is a honeycomb of the metrics of these so-called mentors are there. The inclusivity will automatically get percolated into the universities. And next, the leadership pathway. Develop and promote diverse talent. Everywhere this talent is there. The dancers, the true dancers are dancing behind the curtain. They're not visible. And curtains are having the dancers which are not dancers. So we must break this curtain between. Let us have some change in this system. And lastly, I'm saying mandatory training must be there. There must be a regular training for the hiring committees, for the administrators, for the faculties to recognize the unconscious biases. So these 4, 5, 6 points in these 2 categories could make a big matrix for developing the DEI. This is what I think, sir. Thank you.
you, Dr. Gaur. And there are some questions coming, but before we go to those, I want to ask you like a rapid fire format, just a short answer from each of you. When you look back at your illustrious careers as academicians and leaders of huge institutions, what would you think is your biggest positive, for example, impact for DEI that you have been able to
Yes,
create?
very good.
Dr.
My
Gaur?
impact was that, Dr. Saab, I was a my mind was that how the research should brought in the classroom. So in 2009, when I was placed in Gujarat, I was told by our present PM, your CM there, he told that in Godhra, there was a Godhra Kand. You create a faculty in Godhra of IIT level within 3 years. And I was the founder dean there. So I went in Godhra, I translated the research and made the faculty within 3 years to develop, to brought tribals, women, tribal youths in the classrooms and to use them as a lecturer, as a professor. The farmers used to teach the students as a farmer and they taught better. So my satisfaction is that when you connect with the roots, going beyond your PhD is okay, forget PhD, it is gone. But you go to the roots, you give value, you discover the traditional knowledge, listen in their language, decode it, make it English, then transfer to your whatsoever artificial intelligence. You can have a better policy because your data part is very poor. Good data, good information, good knowledge, good wisdom, and good policy. This line has to be made. This is my learning in my past 15 years in academics, that I am transformed academician from the researcher. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Gaur. Dr. Singh, what would you say would be your defining such experience?
I think I have the longest experience among the panelists. It's about 40 years in the higher education. For me, the DEI was how quickly I can solve the problem, how swiftly I can take the decision, and how I make the individuals valued in my organization. That had been a big support and pillar of strength to me in my academic career as well as in my administrative career. And I really appreciate that this has given me the desired strength as well as the recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Singh. Dr. Murthy?
In my current capacity, I have been here for 6 months, but in my earlier university, that is RV University, Bangalore, in 2020, when I assumed the charge, it so happened that the Vice Chancellor, Registrar, and 3 deans were all men. And in the leadership, the gender diversity was missing. And through conscious reorientation of the policies, through conscious change in the HR policies, at the end, when I left in 2024, there was some 65% were women leaders. Among the 10 deans, there were 6 were women. So there was a conscious choice and conscious reorientation, and such things are possible. So once we integrate inclusion, be it in curriculum, be it in everyday practices, be it in what you call governance structures, changes are possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Murthy. That's very heartening to hear.
We also, what happened, we prepared core values in my earlier institution, and the core values of the university included diversity and inclusion. It's a very important core value, and it's very important to craft vision, mission, core values very carefully so that institutions keep working towards those goals.
Thank you. That's really wonderful to hear. And I also want to share on our campus, I think one of the things we have been able to achieve is a real sense of equality and coexistence. So we have students who are studying skill programs who come from neighboring villages who maybe not even, 5th standard or 6th standard pass. They are sitting in the next table with someone who's doing a MTech in AI. And so whether it's economic, educational diversity, gender, even we have a small Gurukul on the campus, those little children, along with, some of our cutting edge researchers. So that space of coexistence and feeling at ease and expecting that to be normal. I think today we are living in a world which is so siloed, and there is so much talk about how the Gen Z are not even interacting with other types of people, other generations, other types of people. So creating this sort of normalcy around inclusion and coexistence, I think, has been one of our very significant culture drive that we have been able to succeed in our campus. So we have some questions, and I would like to take those. There is one question, and if there are more, please put them here. So there is a question from Javed Khan, Dean at Baba Farid Group of Institutions, which says that in an evolving educational landscape, fostering inclusivity is paramount to shaping well-rounded, forward-thinking individuals. However, deep-rooted stereotypes related to religion, caste, and gender continue to hinder true diversity. How can institutions take proactive steps to break these biases? I think we heard a lot of those examples from all our esteemed panelists. And, I think this conversation has been rich with some of these examples. Big themes have been intentionality in leadership, like what Dr. Murthy said, intentionality in ensuring that we drive the agenda, policies, training. I think we heard a lot of that. One more question. What is the one policy change you would suggest that higher education across India can undertake to enhance DEI? I think that could be something each of you can take, one policy change. Dr. Murthy, to start with you.
It's what you call very difficult to identify a single policy change. If I have to really sharpen it and bring it down to one policy change, I would suggest that DA be integrated consciously in all policies, all SOPs, all the vision, mission, institution development plans, and also strategic vision and action plans.
Okay, thank you.
Diversity, celebrate diversity. This is what I would suggest. Yeah.
Celebrate diversity across, cascade it across the organization. Dr. Singh, one policy change?
I think in this regard, we can link the curriculum where the minimum requirement of the credit can be incorporated, so that pan-India we have the same statutory policies as we are having for other government policies for reservation, etc. So let it be a value-based addition in the curriculum, that the DI is a part of across the line, whether it is a AICT course or it is other regulatory course. But some credit can be given with the university which is having DI in a full swing. And even for the accreditation and for the assessment, some weightage can be given so that we promote this DI in all the universities in a higher education institution.
Very nice. I'm going to ask, there are more questions. So I'll, Dr. Gaur, go to the next question for you. What do you see the role of social, emotional, ethical leadership in enhancing DEI?
This is the most live question where our sense must be sensed. And we don't have common sense. So when you don't have common sense, the sense is useless. So in higher education system, this common sense must be generated across the variety of scholars and faculty, that it is not a university is not a job. It is not a taking a salary. It is a social service to create the crop of the future. So this sense must be get down in the policies, and our policies can never be successful unless our wisdom is not there. So wisdom has to be generated, a clear cut, very sharp and clear wisdom must be generated. And wisdom is created from, I tell you, information, and information goes to data. So we are talking of DEI. The first foremost thing is that let us have some concept, some working with data. What is current situation of DEI in all the universities? Let us generate this volume of data, and then only our policy will come out. So policy must be institutionally embedded, as well as it should withstand the political and leadership changes in that. So we have to get aligned, because we cannot change the bus. The system of development is running on the road. We cannot change the road. Only we can change the direction and speed. So this is what, from my point of view, let us have real data. What DEI is at now, before striking on it, developing policy, target what is the current situation. Please have realistic data. Have a 1 year devote on DEI quantification in different universities where we are. then we can move ahead after that. So data has to be created. This is my little thought, though I'm not an expert. I'm a baby vice chancellor of 1 year only, though I have spent 41 years, but this is my output.
Thank you, Dr. Gaur. Dr. Karthik, how much time more we have?
So we have another 19 minutes left.
Oh, we have enough
Lot of
time. So the same question, Dr. Murthy, I want to ask you to comment on that, what is the role of ethical, social, emotional leadership in enhancing DEI?
Leadership is very critical because what happened, leadership decides the orientation, direction, coordination, and leadership also does the agenda setting, goal setting, and see whether there is a visible improvement on the ground level with regard to the diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the leadership has a big role, and in first identifying the barriers to the diversity, equity, inclusion, and also involving the stakeholders in consultation with the community, in consultation with the policy makers, and then see that these are addressed. And there was one other question I saw about entrenched biases. In fact, the DEI policies seek to address a historical wrong, centuries-old caste discrimination, centuries-old patriarchy and related manifestation in everyday lives. So when we seek to correct, the entrenched biases, it's not often that easy. And it's about, you take, for instance, the persons with disabilities. There are, surprisingly, there are some notions in certain people that they are not good in mathematics, they're not good in certain things, whereas they could have their own unique abilities. And so when one section has such a bias or a prejudice, they are relegated into live as a second-class citizen. They do not get access to places of entertainment or other public places. And so there is very important to understand and then also sanction such practices, be it caste discrimination, be it disability-based discrimination. So the only answer to the first question, which on the chat box about entrenched biases, prejudices, be it on the basis of religion, caste, or gender, etc., is social sanction, the community sanction, awareness, more education, and more enlightened education, teacher training, curriculum changes. All of this alone, it will take a long period. It is not a one-shot solution that you give an injection and then the patient is very happy, and then it is not a change overnight or something. But these are, ours is a hierarchical caste-based society. Ours are like this patriarchy, sun bias, and all these are centuries-old ills. So they will take time, and they can media advocacy, popular action, the community-based action, teachers, education alone, and then all of us working together alone can see that some of these terrible things are a history.
That's so true, Dr. Murthy. It's not a 100-meter sprint. It is indeed a marathon. And it is something we have to do every day. It is not something done once and forever. It's a little bit like our physical hygiene we keep every day. Mental hygiene also we need to keep every day. That is something our focus also in our university. Dr. Singh, would you like to say something on the same point, the same question?
Yeah, I think continuing with Professor Murthy's viewpoint, I can just add that when you are talking about the DI, so it is more towards the leadership of the universities, of the institutions, where you have the diverse communities. And what is fostering them is that is the decision making, as I earlier said. So we should have the safe and inclusive spacing. That is the creating the environment where all are valued, all are taken into consideration, respected, and encourage the open dialogue, I think another point which we can add with the help of the NEP, that is the collaboration of the universities with each other on this point. There should be continuous improvement and accountability of the DI. So that can be the only long-term success. As we talk about the sustainability, that means the meaningful change must take place in the university leadership, in the governance, and that is the more toward the society centric. So that means the thriving society, what they need from us is meaningful change, the benefit to the student, to the stakeholder, to the other beneficiary of the education. So all institutions, they should have the alike curriculum embarrassing the DI. So that creates a new kind of a fostering a world with ecosystem of the diversity, equity, and the inclusiveness. So that means the full potential by the university authority, university management, contributing for the welfare, wellness of the society. That is also important. We used to call it as India itself is a very diversified country with different culture, different heritage, and different values. So unite them in one word, that is DI, and that will become the sustainable change in the system. Yeah, that's my intake.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Singh. There is again a question on how to address barriers from, underrepresented or unrepresented groups. Any comments on that from any of the panelists?
So,
I may see there. Yes, it's very important to identify those barriers and then take action to dismantle them. I will cite one example. Across some campuses, there is something called return back time to the hostels.
Mm-hmm.
It was different for male student, it was different for female student. Some institutions kept it 6 p.m. for female, whereas for men folk it was 9 p.m. Like they had gone out. Generally the students call it as a curfew time. So there, in fact, some of the campuses started something called Pinjara Tod Abhiyan. So this is a Pinjara Tod Abhiyan at once got the imagination or the thing of many female students across campuses, and there was a agitation to break these discriminatory rules faced by female students vis-a-vis their male counterparts. So it's very, going back to the barriers, yes, underrepresented groups face barriers. It's very important to identify them. It's very important to hold a mirror to the institutions, either through accreditations, rankings, rating frameworks, or by the media reporting, and then see that the current anomaly is removed, and then there is a improvement in the diversity, equity, inclusion.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy.
Madam, I would like to come out with last point only.
Yes.
The core of the solution is ethics. What is the ethics in leadership? We must concentrate on this one day. Ethics in the leadership works like a compass. It's like a compass because it may not control the wind, but it will provide you correct direction. So ethics must be preserved in the leadership. And when leaders compromise on the ethics, what happens? They gamble with the trust of those they serve and trust. And once broken, it is seldom repaired. So the most important recommendation from the workshop should be how to create an environment where ethics must be there in the leadership so that they can provide proper direction. Speed comes second. Our direction must be very clear, very focused. So this is the answer for all that we are discussing from my point of view. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gaur. And there are more questions, but I think as we are coming closer to the end, there is one question I can see from Canada. Someone has joined, Ms. Deborah, who's asking about any comments on interventions you can see that can be initiated with youth and families. It's so true. We are talking about DEI at an institutional level, but equity really and inclusion starts at home. So any quick thoughts on that from all of you?
I think what we are discussing, even if it is DI, we are talking about the our stakeholders. Our stakeholder is our student and the family. We are talking about the DI not for institution only, but at the same time, we are extending to the stakeholder. Our student come, then the parent, then the society. That can bring the transformative change in the system. So we are very much concerned with our student and their values. So the opening dialogue when I started on the DI, that was the value-based education. DI is a part of our value-based education. Our heritage lies with the DI. So we cannot overlook, at least in Indian Sanskrit, Indian heritage, Indian society, we value a lot about the diversity. I think the preamble of the constitution itself states the secular. So secular and then the justifiable and then equitable and then the same pillars have been incorporated in NEP 2020 also. So that means all the policymaker, educator, as well as the government, they are focused for the DI component, but being in the education leadership, we can enhance the uses of the DI. That is what is required at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Others, Dr. Gaur, Dr. Murthy?
Yeah, I like to add here that what Karthik has started, that could be a fundamentally same answer. You know, when you expose your scholars, your faculty with the world, let us have the exchange of a wider level. The universities of the world must knock our door and we must knock their door. So such kind of exchange is a good way to start in this direction, where the youth can be integrated and can have, this could be the answer for the person who is asked from Canada. You know, we must have knocking at world other universities, and we are moving in the right direction. Though speed is not much, but this is the way where we have to move, where the faculty and students, scholars must knock the doors of beyond the country and vice versa. This could be a way to work out. Thank you.
Yes, it's an interesting question. Youth and families have a major role, and often discrimination begins at home. The discrimination faced by the girl child, be it access to nutrition, be it access to education, be it access to health care. And as a former, one of the famous ladies, Eleanor Roosevelt, who made a major role in the drafting of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, said human rights start in small places, in the homes, you know, and it is where they should be corrected. In fact, educational institutions can change curriculum, can sensitize youth, can sensitize, but they can also hold workshops, seminars, conferences, and engage in public education, and they can involve community organizations so that the right attitudes can be engendered. For instance, I mentioned about the problems faced by trans people. For instance, transphobia can be in families as well. And so it's very important to involve families as well. And youth and families, they're very important aspects. Going back to one of the earlier points mentioned by Professor Gaur about the leadership, I just want to add a small footnote to what he said. Leadership has a role in deciding priorities. This leadership has a role in allocation of funds, in agenda setting. And so when you understand where you stand as regards diversity, equity, inclusion, you need to put in place, you need to prioritize the gender inclusive policies, disability inclusive policies, or policies which remove discrimination based on any of the grounds, and also see that the funds that at your disposal, at the disposal of the institution, are channelized to achieve some of those ends. And also, as a part of the leadership, as Professor Gaur mentioned, see that the policies are refined, fine-tuned to make our campuses more inclusive, and so that people feel comfortable, people are particularly those with mental illnesses get reasonable accommodation, people with other things can feel a part and then pursue their academic pursuits in just as with any other individual. And education is not a mere matter of welfare or charity. It is a human right, particularly the free and primary education. But of course, higher education because of the resources, etc., is not cannot be guaranteed by the state. Yet it is a matter of right.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Murthy. I think there are some more questions, but time is now, we have exhausted the time for the round table. And I think what a rich conversation this has been. So many insights, so many best practices shared by all our eminent panelists. And I think the really the quintessence of the discussion is typically when we talk about DEI, when we talk about diversity, we normally only think of gender diversity, and which is, yes, very important. But I think what we have succeeded in this conversation is to bring the vast nature of diversities that we today are faced with as a human family, and how all of those can be integrated, how all of those get manifested in our institutions, in our campuses. And I would really like to thank all the panelists for bringing this really vast perspective, whether it is cultural diversity, geographical, economic diversity, diversity of abilities or otherwise, language diversity. So many different perspectives, along with gender, we were able to bring in. Many highlight insights, leave no one behind, equity, not just equality, every voice counts. Lot of best practices which talk about the intentionality of leadership, the need for policies that cascade across the institutional bandwidth, continuous training, a culture of openness and acceptance. I think so many brilliant ideas, and an idea of audits to keep us continuously on track. So really fantastic insights by all our panelists. And I think we are very fortunate in India. We have access to the thought of Advaita, which actually ultimately says we are all one. It is one consciousness after all. And if we stay with that thought for a moment, I think the whole concept of inclusion takes on a totally different perspective altogether. So thank you to all the panelists for a great sharing and your time. And thank you, Dr. Karthik, for putting this roundtable together. It will be my request to Confederation of Indian Private Universities that since we have started the discussion on DEI in such a insightful and positive note, let us keep this going by having more discussions, more trainings, more familiarization, maybe short programs, etc., that our teams can become part of, and more best practice sharing through the year. And I'm sure it will be very well received and most necessary for all our institutions in India. Thank you very much. It was a great honor for me to be part of this discussion and to have the chance to facilitate it. Namaste.
Thank you, Rajita. So thank you to all our esteemed speakers and participants for such a thoughtful and engaging discussion today. So as we have heard, university governance plays a very crucial role in shaping a diverse, equitable, and inclusive academic environment. So insights shared today are vital for guiding our efforts, building institutions where every individual can thrive and succeed regardless of their background. So at Confederation of Indian Private Universities, we remain committed to advancing these values and working alongside all our members to ensure that our universities reflect the true spirit of inclusion and fairness. And so many of them wanted to participate, but some of them, they were not able to join today. So we have recorded this session and we'll be publishing it in YouTube. We'll be sharing the recording with you, and you can share it in your network so that many people will get the opportunity to listen to it later on. And thank you so much once again for your time and valuable contributions. And so we'll see you soon at the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Professor Rajita, and thank you, Professor Gaur, and thank you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you.
So all are invited to come to Lamrin Tech Skills University in Punjab. It's one of the unique and wholehearted invitation by our Chancellor, Dr. Sandeep Singh Kaura. He is National Advisor to National Skill. And thanks to Karthik for giving us this platform. I think, Karthik, just one small thing which you can add after this event. For all these insightful talk which you are conducting and which you will be conducting, I think the purpose and accumulation must be highlighted. So that next time when we sit for some other deliberation, we must understand what is the action taken of the last, what we thought, and what the accumulation of the theme. That's the main purpose of the brainstorming session. Thank you very much.
Definitely, sure.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.